Welcome back. If you aren't already following Naked, please take a minute to do so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Each follow means so much and it actually helps a lot. If you have more than just a minute, it would be absolutely incredible if you could leave a review and maybe even share an episode with a friend. I am relatively new to the pod world, especially new to the things that are important in the podcasting world. And apparently reviews and follows are up there on the list of importance. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Welcome to Naked, where stories unfold. I'm your host, Janelle, a once former pastor's wife who exchanged small town living for a nomadic life. The unexpected change in our life led my husband and our 4 kids to traveling the world. From years of being rooted in our small town to the thrill of wandering the world, our story has been anything but ordinary. On our journeys, we've met amazing people, learned their way of life, and heard their unique stories, which has led me to understand the profound impact of shared experiences. In each episode, we explore moments of transformation, guided by one single question: is there a time in your life when everything changed? We invite ordinary storytellers like yourself to share the often unexpected turns in life. So grab a seat and settle in. This is the Naked Podcast. When I first thought of starting a podcast, I never imagined so many people would be open to sharing their stories. In fact, every time someone says yes or asks to be on the podcast, I feel like saying, "What? Really?" I'm always kind of a bit surprised. I've known most of my guests for a long time, but very few have ever told me their stories in the way they have on Naked, much like my guest today. I've known Dawson since he was born because he's my eldest nephew. Through most of his life, we lived in the same town, so we saw a lot of each other. My entire family actually got together every single Sunday for lunch, all 18 of us. There was lots of eating and napping and tons of laughs. Dawson was usually the one getting the laughs rolling. Some people say funny things, while others just say things funny. He's that guy that says things funny. It just kind of falls out of him naturally. I'm sure you know exactly what I mean. Anyways, as he got older, in his late teens, my family and I started traveling, so I missed a chunk of his life when there was less laughs and he was trying to find his way in the world after graduating. I knew little about this chapter in his life, so it was really awesome to sit down and have a conversation and hear about the mental and physical shift that took place during a really dark season in his life. That eventually led him to finding his true passion and pursuing a career in helping people find a healthier version of themselves, both physically and mentally. He is absolutely hilarious, but he's also extremely caring and inspiring. I loved hearing his story, his determination to not get stuck in a slump and slowly pull himself out of bed. I feel like so many of us can identify with his story. This podcast is for the 20-something weeding their way through life, the teens who are feeling insecure, the parents who are trying to figure out how to support their child, the ones who are in a slump, and those who are looking for motivation. Whatever season you find yourself in today, I hope you feel inspired and encouraged. If you want to connect with Dawson, I've included his contact in the podcast description, so feel free to connect. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you have a really, really lovely day. All right. Today I am so happy to have my nephew Dawson. It's one of my first, well, I only have, hold on. I do have more than one nephew, 3 nephews, but it's the only nephew that I feel is able to come and be part of this. The other ones are too little. And so I'm so happy to have him here. And any of my other nieces, this is the first time. I'm like super honored that you would come and trust the space to come and tell your story. I always feel really grateful when people say yes. And I realize it's a big deal because it's like, I don't really know if I want to talk about my story and I don't know if I want to talk about it in front of people. Which I totally get. So I really appreciate you being here and hanging out with me and really just saying yes to this. So thank you so much.
No
What are you
problem. Thanks
drinking
for having
today?
me.
Of course. Did you bring something to drink?
Oh, double fisting,
Whoa.
water, coffee. Yeah. 2
Wow. I
drinks
thought
at
for
all
sure it was
times.
gonna,
Yeah.
I thought it might be a jug of chocolate milk this morning. I'm not gonna lie. I was half expecting
Yeah. I was going to. I'm fresh out, so
that.
had to make do with what I have.
A little coffee water. Well, I'm not fancy today either. I just have hot water and lemon. So keeping it very chill. So Dawson is, yeah, it's really good. Actually, for you and for today, I put a little grapefruit in it just to so I could be like, I have some grapefruit in my lemon water. So
That's
spice it up a
fancy.
bit. It is fancy. So Dawson is my brother's son, the eldest of his family, of his kiddos. And we had the privilege of living in a small community, kind of growing up together. My kids got to
basically they were hanging out in the same town, and summers was always spent typically at my parents' house. So the kids got really, really close. But as time moved on, we moved away. We became like nomadic and traveling. So we haven't always had the time to connect. But when we did get back, it felt like you and I found a way to connect, whether it be like on the phone, just having a quick chat, or when I'd come back to Calgary, we'd go on a walk and just kind of reconnect on like all the things that happened in the last 6 months or a year or whatever. Which I've told you many times when we go for our walks, I'm so grateful for those times. I feel really like, oh my God, I get to be like, I don't know, like just letting me into your world. It just feels, I feel really grateful. So, and I think in those conversations we've had,
Oh,
we, sorry,
sorry. No, I was saying that I'm glad that we can do that stuff. Sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt.
no, it's okay. Feel free to interrupt at any point. Um, no, but I really value those times together. And, we can be kind of be stupid and silly together. And I just appreciate that. We get to do that.
Glad
And
I
then you
have
came to
someone to
visit
be
us,
stupid with.
right? You gotta have somebody that you can take along with you. But what was really cool is he came to visit us in Nicaragua, which was hell hot, but it was a really good time. And I feel like we got to know each other even just a bit more on that trip, and just being able to have you in our world, the hot Nicaraguan world, which is pretty incredible. You took the
Hottest I've ever
time off
felt.
work, right?
It's no
It's
joke.
it's a hot that you can't describe. When
No
you wake
words
up
for it, to be
sweating, when you come
honest.
out of the shower sweating, it just never stops.
5 showers
But
a
it was
day
cool. It was
minimum.
really 4 gallons of water every day just to try to keep yourself hydrated.
Pretty
It was
much.
kind of crazy. hmm Um, but yeah, so I feel like I've gotten some chances to kind of connect with you along the way, even though our lives haven't really woven together on a weekly gathering at Mom and Papa's house, but just that we still got to stay connected. And I've I've watched you kind of grow from a distance, like watching you over the last 6.5 years since we left and started traveling, and who you were then to who you are now. Like, I feel like so much has changed. So before we dive into that, maybe kind of cool for you to tell people what you're doing now, where you are in the world, just people who are chiming in kind of know a bit about you and where you're situated today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, lots has changed. Right now, I'm in person and online personal trainer, fitness coach. So I work for the city of Airdrie for the past coming up on 2 years now. And about a year ago, I started taking online people as well. So that's been keeping me busy the last 2 of the 6 years.
hmm hmm Yeah, yeah. And I think I love when you pop on Instagram. I know sometimes as we've talked about this, it's hard to be like, put yourself out there, but I always love what you have to say. Like, it always, either it's like really informative or it just makes me laugh. And I'm just like, that's why I love this guy. He like, the way you say things, just like
Uh,
throwing it out there and you just have fun with it.
yeah, that's my goal. Yeah, yeah, it definitely is hard. But yeah, that's kind of my goal. I just want to, exactly what you said, have something informative that's like just a quick something that someone can take away from it, get some value from it, but also don't take it too seriously. Just that's how I am as a person. Just don't take
hmm
life too seriously. Joke around when you can.
hmm Leave room for the silly, which I think you're really good at. And a lot of us can lose touch with that. So it's really good. Well, to dial back to kind of when all things changed, I know we've talked a little bit about that, as we've navigated our conversations and our walks and things like that. Um, Sorry, my mic is just falling here. Um, um, I thought it'd be great to kind of go back to like when all this changed. Like, I've seen you from a distance, and I knew you as a little guy, and you were just always like the smallest of the group. And so we talked about that, um, and just like coming into who you are today. So I think the question I always ask everybody we kind of flow into is like, when did everything, or when was the time in your life when everything changed? And maybe it's not a pinpointed moment, maybe it's like a series of, like, maybe it's over a decade that you can look back and like, these are the things that started to change and maybe who I am today.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I'll leave that with you.
For sure. When I think of the question, when did everything change? Like you said, I think it's like a distance of time. It's not like one specific moment, but there are a few moments over the years that like I'd say like kind of like the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. So like you said already, like growing up, like I was always like the smallest kid, right? Like I was in the ninth grade, starting high school, like 95 pounds and not even 5 feet tall. My mom is 5'2", and I wasn't taller than her until I was almost 16. Like I was like turning 16 when I was taller than her. So I always, I always like had friends, and it's not like I was like bullied by any means, but like I was always like kind of the butt end of the joke, right? Like me being like the funny person or like class clown type of person, that would always come back at you, right? So then that was always like the joke, everyone like, oh, I'm so small, blah 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 blah. And I don't know that like even though it was just jokes, like I always like it still got to me to some degree, and I always felt like somewhat insecure about being like so small, so skinny, so short, whatever. And I don't know, that was just kind of how it was growing up through high school and everything. And then that first moment that I would describe where like things started to change was like at graduation, high school graduation. I was still like the small guy. Like I had grown, so I was like whatever, maybe like 5'9", 5'10", like, and then but I was still like 140 pounds, like super super skinny. But yeah, I had graduated high school, had like no real direction or like plan of what I wanted to do with my life. I was very much flying by the seat of my pants, kind of taking it day by day. And I worked various jobs like after high school for a couple of years, just like exploring, trying to figure out like what I wanted to do with my life. And at one point I got laid off from my job as like a seasonal job, and we didn't have any work. So I was laid off and sitting around eating too much food, not getting out of bed more than maybe a few hours a day, like in kind of like a pretty like dark place, like just like I don't know what I want to do with my life. I'm laying around in bed all day. I'm eating my face off, gaining weight. And so it was really weird because in a short span of time, like I said, I graduated high school at like 140 pounds, and all of a sudden I'm like pushing like up to close to 200 pounds. I'm like 190 something pounds, like not an ounce of muscle on my body, just like massive stomach. I used to say barrel season, like just like I had like a big beer belly. And so yeah, I was feeling I was feeling pretty bad about myself, to be honest, because like I said, all my friends are in university or they're like kind of pursuing some sort of career, and I'm just like being a bum at home, like trying to figure my life out. And so that was like when the next kind of like season kind of happened, or like the next change was like I was like, okay, I've never dieted, I've never worked out, I've never done any of this stuff, but like I can't like continue what I'm doing. So I started kind of like trying to watch what I was eating and just not just aimlessly like eating when I'm bored kind of thing, and not even working out at this point. But in a few months I lost like 15 pounds or so in probably 3 months, just like cutting back a little bit and just not being crazy with what I was eating. So I was like, oh, if I can make some small changes like this and see like a result, like, okay, I'm going to start going to the gym. And so this was May of 2019. So in May, I started going to the gym, first time in my life, like no idea what I'm doing, super paranoid and anxious that everyone around me is like watching me and judging me and stuff. That gym anxiety that people get when they start. And then after it's probably about 6 months, so it's like coming to the year, the end of the year 2019, I was down to like around like 160, so like not much up from when I graduated high school a couple years ago. And I'd like build some muscle. I'm like, whoa, this is the first time in my life where like I'm not just skin and bones, or I'm not just skin and bones and like absolute barrel. So this is pretty cool. And so during this time, I felt like there was like obviously a big physical change, but there was such like a psychological, like mental shift that I had as well. Like seeing like, oh, I'm like up to this point, my life has had no purpose. Since graduating high school, I've had no direction in life, no idea what I want to do. And this gym, like the gym is giving me some sort of purpose. like
Mm.
sounds dumb, but it was
No.
like, it was showing me that, I can work hard and achieve something, right? And so I had such like this mental shift, and all of a sudden, like, I wasn't so down about not knowing what I was doing with the rest of my life, because I was like, I'm doing this and this is working for me, and now I'm just channeling this confidence and this kind of, I guess, like positive energy into other things, and started um just like trying to better myself in other ways I had never done previously. So
Mm.
it was kind of this big, huge, monumental like turning point kind of for me. And then I'd only been in the gym for about a year until I decided, like, this has given me so much purpose. I would like to pursue this as a career. So at
Mm.
that point, I went to Mount Royal. I did a diploma program there, and then I graduated there in 2022. So then, ever since then, I've just been working away. But that was kind of the big shift, was graduating. The shift was downward. It was bad. And
Yeah.
then the shift up, obviously, was once I started kind of getting into the gym, taking care of myself, just feeling so much better about how my life was going after that point.
Wow, that. I mean, for me, I left in 2018, so right, that all that happened kind of while we were gone. Um, I wanted to go
Hmm.
back a little bit to when you were in high school, because I remember coming to like to watch you play basketball, and like you were very
Hmm.
active. And I think like high school is amazing, and it pushes you and gives you opportunity to do things that you wouldn't normally do, sports wise,
Hmm.
especially I think in the activity wise. But then you graduated, and did you at that point pretty much stop all activity? Is that, would you say, or
Yeah,
in
yeah.
that?
So, like you said, I grew up playing basketball from age 8 to 18, like, and
Mm.
I was like every single day. Like, it was rare if I took like a day off and I didn't play at all. Like, every day
Mm.
after school, games, practice, going to the gym on my own, all that stuff. Um, but yeah, at the end of my senior year, I broke my ankle, and so I didn't play basketball right after. I didn't go to university right after. I had no idea what I was doing, so I wasn't playing basketball anymore. And then, yeah, so I wasn't playing basketball, I wasn't working out, and then a bunch of my friends, they were in university away from where I was living. I lived like 30 minutes away from them, so some of them would keep up and play, but I was usually at work or whatnot. So yeah, I wasn't playing at all for for a couple of years for sure. And so yeah, I was doing nothing.
Mm.
And before I had worked like more like manual labor type jobs, like various stuff, right? But I was always being active from that, so that kept my like weight in control. And after that like period when I was laid off, where like I was literally laying in bed. I lived on my own with roommates, but they were at school, at work, whatever, right? So I
Mm.
was alone in the house, laying in bed for probably 20 of the 24 hours a day, like
Wow.
for months on end. And so it was, yeah, that's where that all happened, right?
That- yeah, that's where it gets dark,
Yeah, for
like
sure.
mentally
Just
for
being
me.
alone, like thinking about, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
That's the period in my life where, like, yeah, I guess like that was the bottom of the bottom, right? Where you're just like
Hmm.
lying in bed. And I've never dealt with things like depression or things, but that was like definitely like an episode where I was like, what am I doing? Like, just constantly just in bed by yourself thinking about stuff, and nothing's been going right
Hmm.
up until this point. I'm getting fat. Like, that's just the icing on the cake. Like, I feel so bad mentally that, like, I don't have my life figured out. For some reason at 20 you think that you should. I don't know. Looking back now, I realize that's pretty normal, but um yeah, like thinking I should have this all figured out because it seemed like all my friends did, right? I know it now, like,
Hmm.
they didn't, and they probably still don't, a lot of them. But back then you think everyone's doing so well because they're on the path that everyone says, like, after high school you should be going to university, or you should be immediately getting into like a trade where you're going to pursue that career, right? And I was just like
Yeah.
floating through life trying to figure it out. So Yeah,
I
that
think
was
the
the
pressure
the
of
low of
that,
the low.
the low. And I think that pressure of being 20 and thinking, I have to have this all figured out, it compounds. Like it's like everybody, I mean, don't get ourselves wrong. There's a lot of seasons in life where like everybody has it figured out, and you realize, oh no, they don't. It's
Yeah,
okay, we're all in this together. But I think 20s are
yeah,
really, you finish high school and it's like this pressure, like we're going to go to university, we're going to do big things, like and and I have to have it figured out. I should be knowing what I'm going to do after school before I finish school. Like there's all this like
yeah,
unspoken
yeah,
expectation that whether or not if anyone's saying it, but it's really real. Like I remember coming back to Canada during the summer a few months ago, and I was like, "Are you graduating soon? You need to go to this university, all these courses." And it's like, "Oh my gosh, like I haven't even like finished the thing I started. Like I need to finish this thing before maybe I don't know what I want to do." But then we feel this pressure,
hmm
and then if there is like
yeah,
a gap year or a gap time, it's like this is a waste, or we're doing
hmm
things that don't really bring us any fulfillment, like staying in our beds and like just eating bonbons, like it doesn't, you
yeah.
know.
Eating an
um,
entire family pot of pasta. Yeah,
and then not knowing how to get out of it. I think a lot of us are just like stuck, right? Like stuck. How do I
yeah, for
get out of
sure.
this? Yeah. What was the thing for you was there, you talked about it a little bit, but was there a moment where you're like, like when you said I went to the gym and I was looking around, I know that feeling like oh too well. As I've attempted
Yeah,
the gym a few times and more recently going back and it's like, does anyone notice that I have no idea what I'm doing? And that would have been a lot, I would imagine. You're like, I'm doing this thing and I don't know what I'm doing.
yeah, for sure. I feel like what sorry, what was your question? What was the
No, so like, what was the moment where you're like, no, I'm gonna go to the gym. Like, I know you said you lost weight, so
oh,
you started to feel more
why did I do
confident.
that?
Yeah, like was it somebody who's like, let's go, or did you see something, or was there some sort of a spark of inspiration? Because that's kind of seems like a big shift from like, I'm not
Oh,
leaving my bed to I think I'm gonna hit
yeah,
the gym.
yeah. So part of the spark was so when I was laid off my job, I'm getting fat. I'm uh I'm thinking about life, right? I'm constantly thinking, what should I be doing? And I'm like, oh, I don't know what I should be doing, but I do know that I should probably go back to school. During the time I was between graduation and this period, it's about like 2.5 years. So I've worked 3 or 4 jobs. It seemed like I always had these seasonal jobs, and every like 6 months I had to get a new job because there was no more work. So
Hmm.
I tried a bunch of things and I realized like, okay, well, these are things I like. These are the things I didn't like about these jobs. If, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I should probably maybe go to school for something. So at that point, I decided to move home back to my parents' house because I was like, if I'm going to go to university, I don't want to live on campus or pay the extra money. My parents just said, come back. So I did. So once I got back home, I made that shift, right? Like, okay, I'm going to do something different with my life. I'm going to start trying new things, um, I can't live the same way I've been living. This hasn't worked. So,
Hmm.
like I said, I was trying to lose weight because I was super insecure, obviously. So I was like, this is the next step. I've cleaned up my diet a bit. Okay, now I'm gonna do the next step, which is the gym. And I've never worked
Hmm.
out to this point. Like maybe gone to the gym once or twice with a friend in high school, and like that's the extent of it. But I was
Hmm.
like, this is the next step. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna do it. I signed up for my like where I actually work now is where like local rec center type thing. I signed up for a membership and yeah, I was like super afraid, but I don't know. I was like, I just can't keep doing this. I've been made fun of my entire life for like looking like this, and I don't like the way I feel or the way I look.
Hmm.
So I need to make
Hmm.
a change. Yeah, it was more of just
Hmm.
like a necessity. Like I haven't done this yet. The way I've lived up to this point, I don't like it. I need to change.
Hmm. And then when you started going, was it just become so that you like I met somebody, I don't know if I told you this, but I've been going to the gym here in Scotland. And there's this lady that I
Yeah.
was I was doing some leg presses next to. Well, I didn't really realize she was there because I was in my own zone and I'm doing the leg press. I look over and this lady, I'm like, she's all gray, she's fit, and she's pressing with her legs 460 pounds. And I'm like,
Oh wow.
well, she's probably been living in the gym. I'm thinking, like, this girl is like raised in the gym. She probably raised in a family of gymmers. Like, I don't know,
Mhm.
but like, it's crazy. So I ended up having a conversation with her. I was like, "You are so inspiring. Like, I sit next to you with my 40 pounds on my weights, and I'm like pressing with my legs, and you're pushing 460. Like, what? Like, how did this all happen?" She's like, "Honestly, I never came to the gym until 6 years ago." She's like, "I'm 68 years old." And she's like, my life is changing. Things are happening with my kids, and everybody was kind of doing their own thing. And I felt really low. I felt really like mentally low. And she's like, there happened to be a place near us that just had like a gym set up outside. And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to try this." And she's like, I went and I was like, I love this. Like, I never knew I would ever love lifting. It's like, ever since then, I haven't missed. I come 5 days a week. I don't miss a day in the week. I love it so much. I never knew I'd fall in love with lifting. And she's like, I came here really kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a little bit scared of all the big machines. I don't know how to work them. But she's like, I just fell in love with it. And I wonder, is that something like when you started going to the gym, were you like, I love this? Or were you like, no, I'm just going to do this?
Yeah, definitely at first. I like growing up playing sports, like you're always like used to like pushing yourself like physically and stuff. So I think that was something like I missed from not playing sports anymore. Like there's no competitiveness or anything. So I think that was one aspect that I did like right away. Like when I went into the gym was like it's good to push yourself again, just knowing like subconsciously like I'm doing something good. It was like a rewarding
Mm-hmm.
feeling, but I didn't actually enjoy like lifting weights. Like anybody that's listening to this, if you play basketball, like basketball players don't like they don't lift. Like the good ones do, but most of them don't, right? You know what I mean? Like it's not a thing. Like football
Yeah.
players, they get in the weight room and bang weights around. Like that's like part of the culture. Like part of the basketball culture is like
Right.
I have to go lift weights. Like come on. So that wasn't a thing, but it wasn't something I enjoyed the first few months. Like I enjoyed the physical challenge, but I didn't enjoy the actual act of doing it. And then once I started to see results after, a few months, and then I was like, oh, okay, like I'm getting stronger. Oh, like I'm actually getting kind of bigger. People are starting to notice. Then it was like, oh, that like this is cool. Like I enjoy this. And then after, I don't know, maybe 6 months, then I actually did enjoy it. Like I enjoyed going in and the actual act of lifting weights was fun. But it was more of the physical challenge was enjoyable at the beginning.
Yeah. Did you find like starting to go was affected you mentally off the bat, or is that something that it kind of
Yeah.
came later on? You like noticed later on, or is that an immediate, not an immediate, but a quick change in your body and mind?
Yeah. For me, that was like the immediate thing. Like because I had like I was at, like I said, a few months ago before I started the gym, like 3 months before the gym, this was the lowest of the low for me, right? Like this is in bed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, being sad, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
after like I made a couple small like diet change things and I've lost like 15 pounds in a few months just by like, seeing some of that result, that was an immediate like mental boost. Like, oh, okay, like this stuff that like I'm, that maybe that's more important, like career and these other things, like this stuff isn't working yet, but like at least I'm progressing here and like I'm starting to lose weight. And then once I got to the gym and started working out, like again, that mental like or sorry, that physical like pushing yourself, like I just knew like, oh, this is good for me. This was hard. So like I need I
Mm-hmm.
need to be doing this. And that kind of gave me like a mental boost, like a confidence and like, again, this stuff hasn't taken off yet. I don't really know where I'm going, but this is working. I'm doing this and this is improving and making me feel better and that sort of stuff. So it was more mental than physical for me at the beginning, and then it kind of evened out over time.
Kind of found its way at the middle, where you're starting to see the change in your
Yeah,
body.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think I think it's important. I didn't really grow up knowing the effect that movement can have on your body. And I think now you probably have so much more knowledge with training people um and going through school and things like that, is there something you would tell somebody who's at home being like, that's me, I'm on the couch, like, and I have no motivation? And I'm
Yeah.
sure you have clients you've worked with, but like people that are listening, there's maybe people that are just like, I just am so stuck. Is there something that you found that has been really important to teach and tell your clients that you think would be really important for somebody to know?
100%. Yeah. What I'd say to the person that like doesn't know where to start, is like stuck in that rut, is just go do something. Like it doesn't people like if you look online, there's so much information. It's a lot of it's conflicting, a lot of it's confusing. Like don't let what is this saying? Don't let great be the enemy of good, right? So just go and do something. So go for a walk, like 10 minutes. Just start small, couple times a week. Go outside, get some fresh air. Like it's actually amazing, like how much better you feel just from being outside, and just getting some movement. And you don't need to go to the gym 6 days a week. Just start with walk. Go for a walk a couple times a week. Then progress from there. Start walking daily, maybe again only 10 minutes. And okay, it's time for the gym. I'm gonna go 1 or 2 days a week. Like you don't need to be there 5, 6, 7 days a week for hours on end. Go in there 30 minutes twice a week, do your thing. Just start and get into that momentum. Like you just need momentum to continue building off of it. But I would say just start, and start small. There doesn't need to be this big pressure.
Yeah. I think that's the daunting thing, is like, where would I begin? And so if somebody is doing the 10 minutes of walking and they're getting that going, and now they're like, okay, I'm going to embark on going to the gym. I know from my experience, and you mentioned it earlier too, just like, where do I start? Like, what do I do? Because I know it's easy to hurt yourself when you don't know what you're doing, or and so maybe that's where a trainer comes in, like yourself, where you're helping people. But if people don't have access, I don't have the means to do that, the financial ways to do that, where would somebody start going into the gym, being like, there's all these machines, now what?
Yeah. So like you just said, not everybody has access or like the means to hire somebody. So for one, there is, like I said, there's tons of like free information online. Some of it's good, some of it's not. Part of that is maybe you could reach out to someone you know that has been in the gym for a while, and maybe they're not going to give you the best information, but they're going to get you a place to start, or recommend some resources online. But also, what I always tell people when they're starting, like especially somebody that has like no idea where to start, just go start on a few machines. A lot of the machines, they only work in the way they're intended to be used, right? It's really difficult to mess it up. So maybe you're not doing it 100% perfect, but maybe you get on the machine and you're 95% of the way there, and there's little small tweaks that can make it perfect, but your risk of injury is a lot lower starting on some of those strength machines. And depending on the gym you go to, go ask the staff members. There's people there that you don't have to pay to ask them a question. Like just go in there, ask them. I have no idea how to use this machine. It's my first time here, and they're going to come help you out. You don't need to pay them for that. So yeah, that'd be my recommendation. Start small, start on some of the machines, look online for free resources, and reach out to people if you know anybody that's been in the gym. They might be able to point you in the right direction. Or ask somebody there. Most of the time, I know that's like super nerve-wracking because people are like, oh, there's strangers or whatnot. 90% of the people, probably more, are like very easygoing and are like willing to help people out. Even before I was like training and stuff, I had like younger kids ask me questions, and like it was like actually like nice for me. Like somebody asked me something and I'm like, oh, they trust my opinion. Like I'll teach them something, right? So I
You
know
mean
it
like
seems like
people in the
it's a
gym that
daunting
you're working
experience and it's
around?
scary. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
people just ask somebody, or if you're looking at a machine and somebody's on, just be like, hey, I've never used this. Do you mind showing me how to use it? And I'm sure
That's a great tip.
99% of the time it's going to be a positive experience. So
Yeah, totally. That's a good tip. I mean, if somebody's doing it, and I find the gym is full of people that are just all there trying to better themselves, and I feel like it's, once you get into it, you realize it's quite a cool community, and there's not a lot of like barriers. People are like, yeah, let me help you, and show you the
that'd
way.
be another big piece of advice I'd give people that are new, is like just talk to people, and it doesn't need to be gym related. Just, hey, how's it going? And you start developing these just conversations and relationships with these people there. And once you know, like, you never know, you might really get along with somebody, and all of a sudden you have a gym buddy, or go to a class
Mm-hmm.
where, you go weekly, and you'll start seeing the same people there every time and just get talking to those people. And then you get this sense of community where now the gym is just something you go to, work out, and, you can socialize too. It doesn't need to be such a
Right.
chore. Like, I have to go to the gym, right?
Right. Very fun to see people in the community. When you talked about eating earlier and you're like, I started cutting things back, I think that's something that a lot of us get lost in because we don't really know what that magic is. We're like, I cut back, and I saw you post something
Right.
the other day. I can't remember what exactly you said, but just like cutting back on the wrong things. And so now you're like protein deficient, and you're like, I don't know why I'm gaining weight. And especially for people in my age group, where it's like you're 40 something and you're like, this whole body is like, I'm learning all these things that didn't used to work that don't work now. And I think
Mm-hmm.
myself learning now is like my body needs protein. And so for you talking about when you started to change what you're eating, it sounds like you just had some intuition, or maybe you were Googling or finding some guidance online. But like somebody who's going, what do I stop eating? What would you recommend somebody who's going into this not knowing where to begin when it comes to consumption?
Yeah, no, I think for most people, well, at least, in North America, it's extremely, food is convenient, right? There's a fast food restaurant within a mile or whatever of you at all times, right? And there's a drive-through, and
Yeah.
so it's too convenient. And oftentimes people are relying heavily on fast food or restaurants or whatnot instead of cooking for themselves, which isn't necessarily bad, but a lot of these fast food places are filling us with like fats and carbs, right? Those are cheap, and then not a lot of protein, right?
Yeah.
So that's a majority of people. They're over consuming in carbs and fats and way under eating protein. So the biggest tip I give people when they're trying to lose weight, build muscle, like whatever it is I'm not saying don't eat out, because I'm not like, I eat out every single weekend basically, but Monday through Friday I'm diligent, and I know like what I'm eating because I'm the one that's making it, right? When you go
Yeah.
to McDonald's or whatever, like, you don't know what's in there necessarily, and you can check the nutrition facts and do all that, but at the end of the day, like, when you know what's going into your body and you have like some basic understanding of nutrition, like what are macros, what are calories, what are, all of these things, then you can make more
Mm-hmm.
educated decisions when you're out and about and you need to get something
Mm-hmm.
on the go or whatever. But I would say cook majority of your meals at home. You know what's going in it. Like we talked about, prioritize protein, um,
Mm-hmm.
and have like a good variety of just micronutrients, right? Fruits, vegetables, etc. I know that's really broad, but that's where I'd start. And I wouldn't go too deep into it. For someone that's just starting, just start with the basics, right? And then we can start
Yeah.
optimizing things and honing in on what's right for you, like afterwards, once you have like a general idea of or overview of nutrition.
Right. So just pull back on those carbs and fats and prioritize the protein where you'd say.
Prioritize the protein. And yeah, and when I say pull back, like, I'm like, that doesn't mean cut carbs, that doesn't mean cut, because that's everything you see online, right? Keto, cut carbs completely, or carnivore, you only eat meat. Or then there's people online that are like spewing that fruits and vegetables are killing you. Like, there's so much of this crazy information that's really polarizing. But
Yeah.
kind of zoom out and just take like a very general approach when we're starting, and then we can, start optimizing after that.
That's a good, I think, because I think it is very, it feels very paralyzing when you don't know where to start. And you, like you said, you look online and you're like, one person is saying this thing, and the person is saying the thing, and it makes you feel like, I guess I'm just going to sit here and not do anything because it all
Yeah.
feels like
Well, I'm not going to do
it's
anything
just,
because this guy says this thing and the other person says the next.
yeah, I'm killing myself somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know, and so it can
Yeah.
become feeling very
If I'm going to
paralyzing
kill
and,
myself
and,
from
and
fruits and vegetables, I'm going to keep drinking beer and eating pizza. That
eating
tastes a whole
cake.
lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep the cake rolling. And is that kind of what you do with
Yeah.
online? Like I know a bit about what you do, but um, so you work with clients in person, but also you have clients online, and you kind of walk them through like you take people who know nothing about it and coming into it, say yourself coming into it for the first time. What would that look like? Somebody coming to you and be like, I don't even know where to start. So do you kind of walk them through that? Is it like a weekly, a daily? What is that? What does that kind of all look like?
Yeah. Yeah. For people online, you're asking?
Yeah. So if people are online seeing you and or want to get in touch with you, like what can they expect from that experience?
Yeah. So from someone that's coming to see me online, they don't know anything. I just have like a couple of resources that I get people to kind of read through, and then we talk about it after. It's just like generally explain basically what I said here about the basics of nutrition, going a little bit more in depth. And again, like I said, like what are macros? What are calories? Some people don't know what calories are, right? And how this affects our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and then we kind of just talk about basically where to start, right? Like I said, I don't have this big, great, crazy plan that I throw at somebody that, they're on stage step one, right? I'm not giving them
Mm-hmm.
the entire plan, right? So it's just kind of broken down into manageable chunks. So like for some people, that's like, okay, for the first 2 weeks, all we're doing is learning about nutrition. So we're going to be, tracking what we eat and logging it. So we have like a general idea of, what our starting point is. And I want you to walk for a total of an hour throughout the week. Like, and that can be in one bout, that can be in every day for 10 minutes kind of thing. But starting small and then just kind of just meeting them where they're at and then going from there as best I guess I could describe it. Meet where they're at and then build from there.
Sorry, you cut out. Okay.
Oh,
So,
sorry.
and then do you also walk them through like working out as well? Is that part of what that looks like? Um, is it the nutrition, but also like now let's get you into movement bases beyond the walking, and you get to the space where you can support them with the lifting and that kind of realm as well.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a training app that I use. So essentially, like a client can look through the training app. There's kind of it's the app that the program that I would develop for them. So if they are doing, let's just say, a 3-day workout split, they can go in, check their workout for the day, and then it'll have like video demonstrations. So if they're at the gym and they're like, I don't remember how to do this one, watch their little video,
Mm-hmm.
and then I get them to kind of record themselves a couple times a week, so I can give them feedback on their form if there needs to be adjustments made. And then we do like a weekly check-in. So we talk about like kind of what went right, what needs improvement, any changes to the plan that need to be made for the next week, that sort of thing.
Cool. That's amazing. So it's like a whole package. You kind of get to do all of it. What do you love most about your job, about what you've decided to do?
I think I like that feeling that I had when I first started, where I started seeing those changes like for the first time in my life, like, whoa, like, I feel physically strong. Like from
Mm-hmm.
playing sports, I felt like I had strong legs, right? From all the basketball and stuff, but never had any upper body strength. Like there's no way I could do like a pull up or something like that. And so that feeling that I got where like I'm noticing a change in myself, whether it's like physically, mentally, all those things, seeing that in clients gets me really excited, right? When I work with somebody that
Mm-hmm.
has like been overweight their entire lives and all of a sudden, now they're down 20, 30 pounds or whatever. And they're like, I never thought like could do this, right? I've always been overweight. And now
Mm-hmm.
people are saying, wow, how you look so great, or my clothes are fitting different. Or I had one client that she sent me a message and she's like, I'm so upset with you. I was like, oh, why? She's like, I have to go buy a whole new wardrobe because I've lost so much weight. I'm like, oh, well, I'm really sorry about that. That's a pretty good problem to have, but yeah, sorry. But
Yeah.
yeah, just things like that where people that maybe they didn't think it was possible, or they've lived for, their entire lives one way, and now they're starting to see that change. That gets me super excited.
Mm-hmm. And do you have clients of all ages? Like, do you find, like, I think sometimes as we get older, we feel like, oh, it's not possible. It's just, I've already lost so much muscle mass. Do you work with people of
Mm-hmm.
all ages and have noticed the improvement from young to old?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have clients as young as I have a 12-year-old that I work with at the gym. And then, yeah, I have an online client who is 64 or 64,
Wow.
65. So, yeah, like a very wide range of people. But yeah, I was actually just talking to that client yesterday, and we were saying that it's never too late, right? She's 64, but we see 80-year-olds. We see like literally
Mhm.
80-year-olds at the gym that just started in their like 70s. And
Wow.
kind of what about your story, right? It's not too late, and people think it takes so much time to make these improvements, and depending on the goal, like you can start seeing changes in a few weeks, right? The
Mhm.
elderly people that come to the gym because they're just trying to maintain like regular like body function, like being able to get up out of the chair by themselves, and like get into the bathtub alone, like those type of things, right? Like a
Yeah.
few weeks, and you can see huge improvements even at like that older age, right? It doesn't take
Wow.
a ton of time to make a lot of progress, or to just continue maintaining what you have, right?
Wow. With your clients that you work with on average, or is there an average where you kind of, there's a bit of there's a climb and then you start seeing, okay, we're starting to see results. Is there an average? Is it like, yeah, usually within like 6 weeks to 3 months, you're going to see a change, or what can people kind of expect? Or is
Hmm.
it kind of really individual?
It can be quite individual because some people, well, obviously it's individual dependent because of the goal, right? Some people's goal, if if you're 300 pounds and your goal is to lose 150 pounds, well, that's
Yeah.
a journey, right? That's several years in the making, right? And so you'll still see results, but the end result is further along, right? But I would say it's individual dependent depending on the goal, but also there's some individuals that will work tirelessly at it, right? And they'll every single
Mhm.
day they're doing something. And then there's other people that, they're fine to extend that maybe the goal could be done in 6 months, but they're fine to take a year to do it. So they only put in 2 to 3 days of work. But I'd
Right.
say on average it's maybe about 3 months. After about 12 weeks, you're in like a really good routine. You have a good understanding of what you're doing and like what needs to be done to get to the end goal.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
starting to see a lot of some of those changes of whether that's weight loss or maybe some muscle gain or strength is starting to creep up. But yeah, there's some things that you'll see quicker than others that'll take longer. But I'd say a general rule, maybe about 3 to 4 months.
Yeah. Pretty good. If you could think back to like your younger self, Dawson, at like 94 pounds, and the one that's kind of at the end of the jokes, and um, feeling, I don't know, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but maybe feeling a bit lost as to like how you can make yourself grow or create muscles. Um, what's something you would tell younger Dawson? Like, if there's a mom who's got a son who's in this space, who's like feeling that way, and I think some kids really are bullied when they're in school for their
For
size or
sure.
for different reasons. And so, what would you tell like a mom who's raising her son, or even daughter going through this, and reflecting back to that? Is there something that you would nudge a parent to do, or you would tell younger Dawson to do, in the mix of all that?
Yeah, I think it would depend a bit on their age what my advice would be. But let's just say they're like 16, like they're kind of in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of high school. Um, I would tell parents, one, like if you have if it's sorry. What I would tell parents is if you have the means to do so, just hire somebody. And it doesn't need to be like a long-term thing, but just so you know that your child is going to be getting like good advice right off the bat, because there's a lot of times where people are just going to wander through the process a little bit when you're a kid. So one, just hire somebody. You're going to know that they're doing things safely and they're doing things that are like actually effective. But I just encourage them to encourage their kids, just keep going. And it doesn't need to be super structured. Have fun with it, right? This isn't a process that, especially as a kid, like you need to get super wrapped up on and like be just super like militant. Like just encourage them to go to the gym, lift weights, have fun, go play sports with their friends, like get out and be active, just have fun with it. And then when they're 18, if they want to, start going a little bit harder and start optimizing things like diet and whatnot, you can, but when they're kids, just encourage them to be active, like get them moving, get them participating in sports, let them go to the gym with their friends, that sort of thing.
It's good, because I think sometimes it depends on the type of parent you are, but sometimes we can prioritize certain things over movement, and then not realizing the massive input it can have on your moods and your mental space to help you do things like your academic work. But just being stagnant in your bed doing the academia stuff and then not having any movement, it can perpetuate a bit of a difficult mental health, start a bit of a battle with that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I would say I see a lot of parents that don't want their kids to work out. I guess there's a lot of, misconceptions or wives' tales, I guess, that lifting weights will stunt your growth. That's not true. You just need to make sure that they're being safe, right? They're not, teenage boys especially are notoriously bad for trying to lift all the weight in the gym, right? That's not going to benefit them. That's more than likely going to injure them. So that's why I say, if you can afford it, hire somebody that can take them through the process and explain, like, not only is this dangerous, but you're getting no benefit from lifting this way, right? Teach them how to do it properly. And just encourage them. Don't put up barriers that it makes it more difficult for the kid to be active, or for the kid to, go to the gym and do these things. So.
That's a good thoughts. As we kind of wrap this up, I was thinking back to something you mentioned in the very beginning. You're like being 20 and you're like, I gotta have this all figured out. And I just being now a couple, years down the way with some perspective and some understanding. What would you say to somebody who's embarking on their 20s and they're just not sure where they're going, and maybe they're doing all the things, or maybe they're in school because they feel they have to be in school, but they don't really love what they're doing, or working at a dead end job, doing something that just feels like it's soul sucking, which I think many of us have experienced in our life at some time. If you were to give somebody some wisdom that's 20, you're a bit down the way, what would you say to somebody who's maybe lost in the I don't know?
I think the biggest piece of advice I could give somebody is, maybe you're not where you want to be, but just realize that this is part of the journey, right? This is part of how you're going to make your way. The jobs that I worked before I'm doing what I'm doing now, like, I knew back then, like, it wasn't what I wanted forever, but reminding myself that this is like a stepping stone to the next step. And you don't know what's going to happen, which is super difficult, but just like continue to have a positive mindset. Because I don't know how many times, like, I was working a job that I absolutely hated, but then somebody came up to me and was like, "You're doing a really good job, or keep doing what you're doing." Like, and people notice, and you don't know who's watching. Like, I've had job opportunities from people I don't know just because they had seen me at another job site, and they're like, "You do good work. You don't know what the hell you're doing, but if you want a job, you let me know." And it's like, that's weird. But if I had that mindset of, this is the worst job ever, I hate my life, I don't know what I'm doing, blah 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 blah, just constant negativity, then that's going to reflect in like how I'm portraying myself and how like in the work I do. And you think anybody watching is going to give me a chance? Probably not. So you don't know
Yeah.
who's watching. Keep a positive mindset and then do those things to better yourself, right? Like when I had no idea, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I decided I'm going to move home, which is a really hard decision when you live on your own already. I'm going to
Yeah.
move home and live in my parents' basement while I figure my life out and go to school, right? I didn't know what I was going to go to school for even, but I was just applying because maybe it'll lead me down a path that I want to pursue, or maybe it'll just be another learning experience that, okay, I know I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But that progress and forward thinking is better than just sitting and stewing in your, like your self-pity. Like when I was laying in bed, that was the decision I came to, and I'm glad I did, but I could have easily continued to just sit there and be upset that life wasn't going how I thought it would or I wanted it to.
Yeah.
So just try to keep
Yeah.
a positive mindset more than anything.
Yeah. That's really true. I think it's easy to get lost in the sadness of not knowing where you want to go. And I think I heard one of my
Mm,
guests recently was talking about get uncomfortable with the unknown. There's this idea that we have to be in the known
yeah.
all the time. You need to become good friends with the unknown because in a lot of seasons of your life, you will sit there and it's okay. Sometimes that's where we grow the most, is in this space,
Mm-hmm.
or if we let ourselves in this space of like, I don't know, it's a bit uncomfortable, it's a bit unknown. Um, and yet there's a lot of growth that can happen in that. And like discovery, like yourself, like if you wouldn't let yourself just, I'm going to switch the way I'm eating and then realize, oh my gosh, this is changing how I feel in so many ways. And it's building my confidence to like, I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm going to hit the gym. To this then turning into like the thing that you love to do. And one thing I've enjoyed from our conversations, it's about health and it's about feeling good in your body, but it's also been so much about less about, I feel really inspired by you when you talk about things because you make it fun for one and things like that. But you also, you, you've, you have a way of explaining things where it's like, this isn't just about getting really big. It's about feeling good here in your home. Like this is the only home that
Mm-hmm.
you and I will ever have. And then how we feel mentally is such a shift too. And I think that your approach to it is like a whole body perspective. It's not just about like we're trying to get these gains. It's like no, you're 80 and this is great
Yeah.
because you want to be able to sit on the toilet without assistance. Like this is we can do
Yeah.
something with this. And I think that's
Yeah,
the thing I love
100%.
about it. Yeah, yeah. I really appreciate your outlook and perspective, and um, I'll attach Dawson's information so if anybody wants to be in touch with him and work with him in the future or learn more about what he does, you would be in great hands working alongside with him. So I'm so grateful that you took the time to be here. You're one of the first kids that joined me here, and I feel really, really honored that you took the time out of your life in the midst of the busyness. Before we top it off, I always like asking this question because I think it's so interesting where people are at. But is there something in your life that you've recently discovered or found that's bringing you an immense amount of joy?
I think the thing that stands out to me when you ask that is um, living with purpose. Like I know that's
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of people my age, early 20s, mid 20s are like, well, and maybe even older. I'll see when I get there, but are struggling with like, what is my purpose, right? I have this job I go to, I have all these things I do, but like, what is my purpose, right? And so I find myself, as everyone does, like getting in these ruts from time to time where you're like, things aren't going how I want them to, or how, I expect them to. But just reminding yourself to like, what is my purpose? I know what my purpose is, right? I was listening to this podcast and it was talking about like discover your gifts, right? And once you can serve others with those gifts, you'll find your purpose, right? And I know like what my gifts are, and I need to just share those with other people, and that like gives me an abundance of joy, just knowing like I'm doing what I know I should be doing, and it's serving other people and it's helping them, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say. Live it with purpose.
I love that. I love that. I think that is true. I think that when we
Thanks.
lack purpose, you're welcome. But no, when you lack purpose, you can feel very lost and feel very like, well, what is all this for? So that was really good.
Yeah,
I love that you were
exactly.
in this. Yeah,
What is the
you're doing
point
that.
of all this?
What are we doing? Yeah. Well, I really, really appreciate this. I'm excited to share this with the world, and thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for helping people. You've helped me along the way, and you've helped Mikkel, my son, and I just really appreciate that you've been so open about your journey, and the way that you look at it is the thing I love the most, because it's super inspiring and it makes it feel like anyone can do it. And it's not just about the big gains, but it's about the whole emotional, physical well-being. So yeah, thank you so much,
For
and
sure. Thanks for
keep
having
doing what
me.
you're doing. Of course, it's my pleasure.
I'm gonna try.
Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you when I see you.
Sounds good. Take care.
Okay, take care. Ciao.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your podcast goodness. This way you'll never miss out on any future episodes, plus it really helps us. And if you want to share your favorite episode with a friend, that would be absolutely incredible. This goes a long way. If you'd like to join Naked by sharing part of your story, just leave us a message on Instagram or email us at nakedwithjanelle@gmail.com. Also, a big thanks to my son, Mikkel, who is the best cheerleader and maybe one of the biggest believers in Naked, and also produces and edits all our podcasts. I am beyond grateful for him and very aware that I couldn't do this on my own. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being here.